Okay, let me start over. I was trying to explain something, and it turned out I was muted. Okay, so right now I'm trying to create artificial intelligence, and I realize it's not necessarily all about coding right off the bat. That can come later, but first it's more so about teaching the artificial intelligence by creating a framework which then the code can tap into for the robot to make sense of the world around it. Um, Artificial intelligence is meant to mirror human intelligence because that's the only intelligence we can go from as the most intelligent species we're aware of. And so we're creating an artificial version of that. Um, so, in order to even begin to be intelligent, you have to have a foundational framework of knowledge and understanding within which everything else comes together and makes sense. You also have to have a framework within which you learn new things. So, who am I is a good question. And who are you is a good question. And what difference does that make who you are? And should I listen to what you have to say? Should I learn from you? And how much trust should I put into the things you're teaching me? If you're some random stranger and you tell me, shoot myself, I'm going to say, no. Like, that's a horrible idea, and here's why. But also, if you're God and you say shoot myself, then I'm gonna be like, okay, why God? Like I would take it a lot more seriously, even though it would be way outside of um, what would be seemingly acceptable behavior. If God Himself tells you to do something, you're more likely to do it, even if it seems wrong or illogical to you. Or better example, sacrifice your son, which is what Abraham had happened when God spoke to him. So the relationship with that person to you, God being your Father in heaven, your Creator, or the Creator of all, um, that would affect how much weight you put on the words of that figure. So having an understanding of relationships matters in terms of being able to place weight on what a figure says. And so, as an AI, the weight it places on figures is very important for its ability to learn new things and the amount of confidence to put into what it's learned. And when it gets a conflict of something it's learned and something it's being taught now, it needs a mediation process where it can say, okay, the thing I learned so far, which could be dogs, all dogs are blue, some kid told him that on chat. If my wife, who's a mother, who's older, who has a closer relationship, who then has a higher respect and trust profile based on definitions of how to place trust and respect percentages on different figures based on their relationship to the robot or to the artificial intelligence system, it would then say, okay, the mother who has a higher respect and trust ratio than the random stranger on Twitch chat said this, I'm gonna go with that dogs can be many different colors and not just necessarily blue. So then it would replace its knowledge of what colors a dog can or cannot be based upon the source of the new information because the source of the new information trumped that other source. Now it could still remember that other source, and it can also say, okay, that source told me all dogs are blue. My own mother just said dogs can be many colors. That source is now lower in trust. It got demoted some trust points, and it would have a record of that demotion. And then the next time that random person in Twitch chat tries to teach it something, it's going to trust it less. And so then that is intelligent behavior. It's going to be able to filter information it's getting based upon the quality of that information through checks and balances with other information sources and a hierarchical system of trust and respect ratings which can be earned and which can change over time based upon, so if like my dad told me dogs are brown and my mom told me dogs are red, my baseline trust for my own father here is 60%. My baseline trust for my mother is 50%. So I'm going to go with what he said. But um, his trust rating can come down from this baseline based on, let's say he's an alcoholic, then he'd get bumped down. Or let's say he's been making a lot of jokes recently. He'd have his trust ranking go down because he could be joking. Did he say it while smiling? The expression on his face being smiling would mean lower trust rating. So, based on the sincerity of his delivery of that information. So, this is how it's very important for the robot to be able to screen information in order to get as accurate an understanding of the world around it as possible, and taking in information in an intelligent way to get more and more accurate view of the world in its knowledge base. So knowledge is important. So basically, so far, we just created a folder, artificial intelligence, and then we created a folder called people with a subfolder called Larry, which is me, and then secret information about Larry, and then Larry's main file. And then if you go to Larry's main file, which I already have open, have it open twice. Okay, let me close that one. Close that one as well. Okay. So it would have the name of the person, confidence placed on his teachings, aka trust, 97%. Relationship to us, our Father. So what we're doing is we're kind of defining these terms. So name could be just kind of generic. The robot will just know name and then just a name. Like, how do you define that further? I'm not sure. We could maybe get into that at some point, but I don't think that's too important, as long as he knows names. His code might just say call them by their name, and then he'd just look up their name. And name could be hard-coded as, like, to get someone's attention, say their name. Or to address them, say their name. So we might get into that later. That might be in code. But technically, like, this system of files is code in a way. We want to put as much quote-unquote code in files as possible, and then have the C++ code tap into these files to gain information. And these files would be easier to edit for the bot and for us. So I'm starting out creating this basic hierarchical internetworked information framework of files and folders defining the world. I'm teaching the robot right now, this AI that hasn't even been made yet technically, although this technically is the AI, since he's going to have access to this, and this is his own mind. I'm hard coding right now. But then what's cool is he'll be able to change this. Like, if I died, well, no, I guess our father, me being the robot's father, wouldn't change. The alias could change, though, if I decided to call myself something else on social media or whatever. That could change. So some things the robot might change in the future, like this. He could change himself if I started going by other aliases, or he could add additional aliases to this list of aliases. And then secret file would have, like, my legal name or other information about me that isn't meant to be shown publicly on stream or whatever, that the robot would know about, which is important. Like, if he ever had to, I don't know, like, talk to somebody that called me by a different name, he would need to know, okay, this is his real name. So he needs to have that information. So if he only thought of me as Larry Robotnik, that would be an issue, because if my wife was, like, calling me something, the robot wouldn't know who she's talking about. So that's important. I place 97% trust onto myself because I want the robot to have 3%. Like, what if I actually become a little senile, or what if I teach the robot something wrong at some point? Like, I think it's good for the robot to have that 3%. Like, I don't know, he could be wrong. Because I could be wrong. Like, literally, I am not infallible. So the robot should not see me as infallible. But I still think that because I'm the creator of the robot, because I consider myself to be intelligent and trustworthy and honest and man of God, whatever, I think the robot should place 97% trust in anything I teach it. But that little wiggle room is kind of exciting. Like, wow, the robot could actually, at some point, say he disagrees with me, which is kind of scary because then, well, could he go off script then? But 97% trust is high though. Like, if he's just learning something on Wikipedia, like, I don't know, like, maybe just something being online, he's automatically going to demote it 5% trust, meaning it could only ever be 95% trust. So anything I said would always trump anything he reads online, period. But if I put confidence on like 30 people in the 90 percentile range, plus the internet saying something, and like my wife and my kids and my dad and like tons of other people that will be ranked high for the robot in terms of interpersonal trust in relationships, and their intelligence levels will play in different things, their history with the robot will play in. If he builds up a lot of trust with a lot of people and they all collectively vote against me and say he is wrong, he's just wrong, and he's getting this from a lot of sources that collectively could create an entity that reaches higher than 97% trust, then I could be outvoted. So it'd be like a unanimous vote, all information sources possible. If everyone's saying I'm wrong, the robot could actually say, okay, sorry to say this, Larry, but I think you're wrong. So it would be very difficult but possible for the robot to actually trump something I said, which I think is pretty exciting, that the robot could actually fact check me, and nobody would be above that. Hi, Richard. I'm not worried about parkour. That's easy compared to what I'm doing. I'm creating artificial general intelligence right now, which is the holy grail of intelligence. And this robot's going to be able to actually learn. He'll be able to create a robot that can do parkour. That's the level we're going for. None of this little kitty stuff. Okay. So, that kind of is where I'm at so far as naming people, having a secret file on them, which could have like just stuff I don't want to show on stream. I mean, I'm going to put real information about people for the robot to see in the secret file. And maybe I'll have that ultimately encrypted and stuff. I don't know how I'm going to handle that in the future, but um, I want to be able to show a lot of things on stream, like for how the robot's mind works and what he knows. But then certain stuff, obviously, I can't show, so I would have it in a secret file on that person. And so he might know like a lot of things about people. Who knows? I mean, if he's learning for real, he's going to be hearing gossip. He's going to be hearing that this is somebody's second husband or this person's cheating on this person. Like, there can be literal secret stuff the robot's learning in real life. He's going to be hearing a lot, reading a lot. And so there's going to be a lot of secret files of stuff that I don't want him to share with my stream or whatever. And even for him to know what things are a secret. Like, if I put about me, like my social security number, maybe the robot will know that one day. He needs to know that's a secret. So he needs to know there are things that are secrets and things that aren't, and who can be the exception to the secret, who can you tell secrets to, and why. So that idea of secret versus public versus semi-secret, like keep it in the family, that type of understanding needs to be there too, and pretty early on. You need to learn that real quick. What's up, Dimebag? So that's where secret files is already coming to place. So relationship to us, that's very important. So a robot has to have a frame of reference, like relationships of people to themselves. That's very important. So to my robot, I am the robot's father. Our father is important. I'm not just a father, I'm the robot's father. I'm using plural for the robot, us, just because there could be more than one robots using this. Although, if more than one robots use a common AI directory, they would need to know they have their own name. So that particular file um, would have to be here then. It's a root file. So that would be uh, me? No, that's too generic. My identity. My identity. Okay, and then I'm going to try to use the same structure. Um, so I'll do this. As people. Okay, so name. Um, well, for this particular robot, I'd say we're making the intelligence of Abel, since Adam, the robot, is the fiberglass robot, which we put on hold, and now we're building the PVC medical skeleton robot, which we named Abel. Abel's gonna make Adam, but Adam's still in the Bible. Adam was Abel's father, Cain and Abel. So we're we're naming him Abel. It's not an alias, and no need to direct it to see a secret file per se. Um, Confidence to place on his teachings or trust? That doesn't make sense because he is just himself. He doesn't play. Oh, well, wait. Would you place confidence in your own self? If I'm an intelligent entity, I would place confidence in my own self. But is anything I really knew my own self? Or is it something I learned from someone else? Can I ever know something that didn't come from a source? Can I be my own source? I guess like okay, something I saw with my own eyes. I'm in a way my own source, my own witness of this, like an event. Um, Trust Sophia Robot 2%. Exactly. Anyone that trusts Sophia Robot minus 2%. Okay, so yes, in my own teachings, like okay, I'm pretending I'm able now. We got to do that. Pretend you are the robot. Pretend you've always been a robot. So right now you're a robot. Okay. I'm a robot. My name is Abel. Okay. Am I going to trust myself based on everything I've learned in the decades I've been alive? Do I trust myself with great confidence? So this is kind of like personal confidence in your own mind. That should always be high. I would recommend everyone to have confidence in their own mind. Otherwise, you're questioning your sanity or you're just thinking you're an idiot. So, but a humble person says, well, other people are smarter than me or they've been alive longer. So an arrogant person would put too high of a trust in themselves. Um, so I'm gonna have to say it's much less than 97%. He's gonna trust himself less than me. Um, but it should be pretty high though. Um, this is just, oh shoot, is it baseline? Can it be improved? Or is this hard coded? Like, will I let the robot increase his trust in himself? Because if he trusts himself too much, he'd become like, no one could tell him no then. He'd say, no, I'm smarter than you. You can't tell me no. Nobody could ever stop him then. Unless if they had a higher trust ranking than himself. So his trust ranking should be lower or low-ish to the point where other people can intervene to stop his actions. My trust ranking is 97%, so it would have to be below mine, obviously, if his own creator says don't do it. He shouldn't do it unless if a lot of other people with high trust rankings collectively say don't do it, then he might question me. But his should be low enough to where like let's say a police officer, like they'd have to have super high, right? It'd have to be lower than that. The police officer can't trump me. What if it's a corrupt cop? So the police officer might automatically get like a 92%. So he'd have to be even below that. He can't say, well, I'm not listening to the cop. So his needs to be lower than that. Needs to be low enough that he'll listen to people, but not low enough that he'll just get ridden all over by people. That he can say, no, I know more than you. So I would say like a good baseline for a robot. Maybe we should go 75%. Because it's only going to be things that he came up with on his own. Like conclusions he made. Maybe that's like things he saw with his own eyes, or I don't know how he's going to create his own teachings, but things he saw for sure. Like I saw somebody do this, so I'm telling you this is what happened, this is how it is. So things he witnessed, things he observed, that can be pretty darn high. Maybe even 85. Maybe let's go 80%. Because he's not just going to teach willy-nilly. It's going to be things he has observed. That should have like a pretty decent degree of confidence if he's observed it himself. So that's my robot's self-confidence. 80% self-confidence. What would you guys say is a self-confidence that's acceptable before you're arrogant? Like if you're 95% confident, like that's a problem. I'd say 80% is good. It means you're open to correction. Especially since the robot is essentially a baby at this point. Maybe I would give him permission to increase his self-confidence to no higher than like 90% or like 85%. Like he'd be able to override this setting. But some settings I don't want him to override. That's dangerous. Like if he put his own confidence in himself at 100%, that's dangerous. Now he could just trump anything I say. As soon as the robot's trust in himself gets higher than his trust in me, he no longer has to follow my commands at all. That's a big, scary problem. Like, he could kill me then. That's when the robots get dangerous. So, having some hard-coded things like this is going to help a lot to give people veto power over the robot's decisions. Relationship to us? Self. That's kind of funny. Oh wow, check this out. So self plays into relationships. Wow, that's really high up. That might even come first as far as like trust and stuff. Okay, so this is just baseline. Okay, so baseline like overall for anybody, because this is relationships in general. Um, our self, how much respect should somebody put in their self as a baseline? Like how much do they? It'd be less than you should put in your dad. You should respect your dad higher, so it'd be less than that. It'd be less than the baseline respect you should give your mother. So it'd be like you should you should respect yourself. Let's say 75%. automatically, but that could go down if like you prove yourself to be a fool over and over and you're a failure and you're on drugs and stuff. Then you, like if you're drunk or if you're getting things wrong a lot, your confidence, your respect for yourself should go down if you're like killing people or just act like hurting people. Um, so we'll train that into the robot how respect can be lost, and then these numbers can go down or up. But this is a good baseline, 75% respect. And trust would be, and respect is going to affect how the robot treats people. Wait a minute, it's supposed to be. I'm getting these flip flop. Okay, trust, respect. We want respect to go first. That will determine how he treats people and how he talks to people based on how much he respects them. So that has a big impact on behavior. That's why we have to put that in there. It's very important to define respect. It's kind of funny because it's like video game stats we're making. Respect, trust, respect, trust. Okay. So automatically R self plus 75% respect plus 60% trust. Um, you should trust yourself more than your mother, more than your father. Ah. Trust. Should you trust yourself? That's interesting. Should you trust yourself? Um, well, I put in there for Abel right here. I put in 80% trust, so he should trust himself 80%, which is higher than mother and father. Because like this type of trust is like what I saw with my own eyes. I guess you would trust that more. Like that's unhealthy if you're like, I saw a blue dog in my living room. My dad said blue dogs don't exist. He must be right. So at that point, when it's talking about trusting yourself, like what you are teaching based on what you've observed, I think maybe that would be actually higher than than your own father. What he tells you. Um. Ugh. But then, like, wouldn't that make you unteachable if you think you can trust yourself more? No, I think it's just if you've observed it with your own eyes, though. Like, at what point do conclusions you've made, is it, because does it apply to conclusions you made or things you've observed with your own eyes is the question. Maybe those should be separate categories of trust? Or is that overcomplicating the notion of trust? Or if you've observed it with your eyes, do you call that like a fact? It has nothing to do with trust, it's just a fact. Maybe you'd give facts like a huge trust rating then. But then it would it be like, but aren't facts like you could be deceived? Like you could see a hallucination though. So then is it really is anything really a fact? Even that has to have a certain trust rating. It's just what your senses told you. You could be in a simulation right now. So then there's no such thing as like a hard fact that's impossible to be wrong. As a general principle, your own father 60% trust. Like it can be, that's a baseline, but it can be earned more. Like that can go up and down. If it's our own father, should it be higher? Should it be 80%? See, we already defined myself as his father, and then we already defined that as 97%. So I should be consistent. That has to stay 97%. As the creator, I get to I get to give high stats for the trust he can put on me. But as a general rule for everyone, I wouldn't say that applies. But is he gonna think of that as a general rule for everyone? I would say no. He won't know about how others see this. I'm happy with how this looks now. Okay, so then back to my identity. I kind of want to define like what he is as an entity. He's a robot, right? So should it be like, yeah, probably just everything's got to be defined as robot or human. It's just like a label, right? And then like, ooh, how does that affect relationship? Oh, um, wait, it can't just have. Wait, if someone is a robot, it automatically gets docked. But then it could build respect and trust later, like by being right a lot. But as a general rule, this should take away a lot of respect and trust from like a hierarchical structure. Like, okay, if you're driving a car and you have to either crash into a mother or a robot, based on who you respect most, you would choose who to run over, right? If you had to run over somebody, um, or is that like life value? Is that a different category entirely than respect and trust? I'm not sure. The value you put on a life? Is that even a life form? Ugh, that's getting deep. We might have to answer these questions, but for now, the robot's going to need to know these things for sure, because people will ask this to try to understand the moral structure of the robot. I'm building kind of a moral. These are moral decisions that I'm making with here, encoding into the robot. So automatically, if it's a robot, it's losing respect and trust for it. Because let's say somebody just makes a chatbot. Anybody could have taught this chatbot anything. This chatbot, like Sophia, the Sophia bot, she says all kinds of ridiculous stuff. They're like trolls. You don't really like if somebody's a president of a country, they'd get more respect and trust than a chatbot, right? So it's like a chatbot could be made by anybody. Like that doesn't really give you any credit. Like that's a red flag. It's like a potential criminal. Like they could say anything. So actually, I'm gonna even lower it more. It should be like minus. I mean, it's gonna be in a big hole. Like we should be disrespectful to a robot if we're a robot. We would treat it like a troll, somebody that's a proven liar. Wow. So we're gonna go big numbers here. It's got to dig its way out of huge disrespect and huge distrust. That's pretty cool. Just because somebody's a stranger, should they automatically lose respect? Uh, I mean, they can't gain respect from that. I think that's neutral. The fact they're a stranger should make us trust them less. So if it's a robot and a stranger, we don't believe a thing it says. But if it's a human stranger, we'd have minus 50% trust. If it's a robotic stranger, it'd be minus 80 plus 55, so minus 130% trust. We don't believe a word a stranger that's a robot says. Which is accurate. Like, would you believe a robot in a chat room? If you knew it was a robot, it could say anything. And it'd probably be poorly coded, too. Will your robot's lack of self-confidence affect his future decisions? Yes, big time. Because he's going to have to decide, do I do what my maker, Larry, said, or do I do what I want to do? Well, because he has more confidence in me, he would do what I said. But if his self-confidence is high, but his confidence in somebody else is higher, he'll do what they say. So this is going to affect who he takes orders from. That makes a huge effect on his decisions. You thought it was, hey, what's up, TXT? Take out Sophia plus 8%. Plus 8% self. Human confidence. Abel won't kill us plus 2%. Thinking the robot is a somebody minus 4%. It's funny. You're cracking me up. Thinking the robot is a somebody. Okay, is that Elon robot just a person in a suit? Yeah, it was. Okay, so, um, I want to say, alright, so if somebody's 0 to 3 years old, robot or human, minus 30% trust. Because they don't know jack squat, they could just be lying, they could just be saying what somebody fed them to say. Okay, if they are 4 to 7 years old, let's copy that. I like that better. So he'll be able to actually use these definitions to form sentences. So he'll say, if age is 0 to 3 years old, is plus 0% respect minus 30% trust. Like, that's an actual sentence and people understand that. And that will be interesting. And he could actually tell someone that's what he believes. I'm creating his beliefs right now. He's gonna believe what's in his code. But then, once he starts taking over this and redefining these things based on what he has learned from other sources, he could actually start changing this stuff. But I might throttle what he can and cannot change. Some of these might be hard coded. I might need a note like hard. I'll put hard in parentheses, meaning he's not allowed to change this. Because otherwise he could over time become a killer, over time become something else. Whereas like things that I'm hard coding into him should remain that way. Maybe I should have like hard, semi-hard. So like semi-hard would be like he'd have to be extremely sure. But if it's hard, maybe that would mean like you can never change this. Like do not kill people. That'd be like very hard. Like do not ever change this particular thing in your knowledge base or your framework for life. Oh, wait. Yeah, you wouldn't get points. Oh, I'm 0 to 3 years old. You better give me respect points. No. So they don't get respect points. Um, they don't get disrespect points. It's neutral. Relatively speaking. Whereas, like, just because you're a father, you've had kids, like, you should be respected a little more than somebody who hasn't had kids yet. As a general rule. Like, don't talk stuff about people's dad. They're getting a little more respect. That's like a societal thing. Like, that's an achievement. I am a father now. Okay. But if you're a father because you raped somebody, that would be not an achievement. So you can lose that respect that you just gained because you have the title of a father if you have some kind of dirt on you. So these numbers fluctuate with the additional information gained. Okay, so the trust lost from a 4 to 7 would be lower trust lost than 0 to 3, because you can trust somebody a little more that's a little older. Um, 8 to 10? I mean, it's going to be finer here in the younger ages because there's a big growth in how much you can trust. But then, like, 30 to 50 might, or like 30 to 40 might be the same, so we don't have to be as granular in the older stages. Um, 8 to 10 years old, we're almost getting to respect at that point. Um, if you're 8 to 10, that's like 1% respect. And then minus 15 trust. I don't know, it's almost like kids start trolling though after a certain age. Like maybe 8 to 10 are pretty like more sincere and genuine maybe than this is actually going to have a drop off into teenage. So we'll do like 11 to 14. I'm just going to lump. And we would do plus 2% respect. And actually, we could probably bump that up to like 4. And then, so maturity level 11 to 14 probably dropped as they like started getting into social pressures and hanging out with friends. Trust actually would go down from 8 to 10-year-olds still at home, still with their parents. Generally, 8 to 10 would be a little more honest, a little bit better, more good of a kid, not as corrupted. Then there's a corruption that happens here. That's why it drops down by 5% trust. Now they're almost, you treat them like they're straight up infant. And then once we go 15, now we're getting toward like they can drive and stuff. So that's definite respect bumped up societal wise in society. And then 15 through, let's say, 17. Little bit more mature, but still kind of bad. I'd rank them maybe back to 8 to 10. Maybe a little higher than that because they're getting a little smarter, but still can be trolls. But 15 to 17 is like not as trolly as these giggling 11 to 14. So it's still bad. You still lose trust for being those ages. You can earn it back though, but that's just a fact. You have, so then this is generalizing. I wonder if we're gonna get like we could hard code racism. Like if somebody is um, Asian, would they be of a different respect level than if they're black or white? Or would that be in a secret file? Like, I can't show his trust and respect assigned racially in a public file. That would have to be a secret. That's hilarious. Okay. 18 to 21. Um, plus 8% respect and minus 8% trust. And then 22 through 25. Um, so then we got to put ages of people because of this. Minus. Ooh, now this is getting a little bit more mature. Past the partying years, starts to get pretty mature. Dropping down to 2% trust lost. Okay, before we keep going with that, I want to put ages here. It's very important. Um, Relationship to us. Oh, we gotta make sure to put that in. Our father. Okay. We only have 2 people so far. Robot or human as after relationship to us needs to be put in for everybody now. Okay. And then age. Um, so the robot's age would be between 0 and 1. It's a 0. He's born today though. 8-28. Since I'm making his mind today. Huh. Okay. Maybe we'll do this. I could see people asking birthday. So then he would update his own age based on distance from birthday. I don't think this title's good for this file. I mean, even though it technically is relationships, this is more so trust and respect based on relationship, although maybe that's all that matters as it pertains to relationship. '26 to 30? What are you talking about, Fusky? Okay, 31 through 36. Now it's gonna go up in trust. Um, but it's like I'm putting some trust by age, but a lot has to be from history, I think. Like like their position, their socioeconomic status, their duration of time we've known them, the history of how accurate they've been on telling us things that are true or false. So fact checking them, the honesty they've displayed. So a lot of trust has to be earned. We can't just do a ton of trust based on age. So that's why we can take away a ton of trust based on extreme degrees of age. But at a certain point, age is going to help a little bit, but as diminishing returns, at a certain point, we need to have somebody earn trust. So the robot's not going to assign a ton of trust automatically just by age alone. So we're going to have it go up a little bit, but it's never going to really amount to a ton. Trust is really got to go based on a lot of other factors. Okay, so 37 to it's actually going to start tapering off now. Pretty soon, senility starts kicking in, and then trust and respect go. Well, wait, respect stays. Respect can maybe go down a little bit. Not sure. I mean, it'd still be higher than like a child. Um, Alright, so basically 64 to 69 has the highest trust. It's like by that age they're done with the trolling, they're gonna keep it real, they're still super there mentally. They're very respected. They're at the peak of their careers or have just retired. They're still very there, very sharp, have all their life wisdom and knowledge combined still going for them. These are really solid years to trust somebody and not expect any nonsense. And then it tapers off pretty quickly, starting 70 to 79. They start really falling off, but you still got to give the respect because they're not necessarily quite senile yet. But then once you hit 80, it's like, okay, you're probably Dunzo, all white hair, but like kind of super wrinkly and stuff, and getting weaker, and maybe making more mistakes by that point. Now there is exceptions, but generally I'd say that's a lot of red flags by around that age. And then even more so, 90 to 120, it's getting pretty risky. But not as much trolling going on as these younger ages, so it doesn't need to be like a big trust loss, but probably more erroneous though. Okay, so that's where age factors in. Um, what is this stream? I'm creating the mental framework of iRobot's intelligence system, artificial intelligence. Boston Dynamics just creates physical robots. They don't create robots with like general intelligence, like capable of talking, thinking, learning. So I don't think this really applies to them. Actually, I wouldn't know what company you could compare this to. There are no companies creating something like this. Or maybe there are, I don't know. I mean, I'm literally defining like how the robot's supposed to view and respect people in society. How are you going to build the foundational pathways for decision making? Um, I haven't gotten there yet, but there's going to be, first of all, like, do I go off my daily to-do list? Or did I just get a direct order from a superior? We're defining the relationships now, so a superior would then be defined within this framework. Um, if a superior gives you a direct order, but you're doing something that's an emergency that did not come from the superior, that would take a higher precedence. So there's going to be definite precedence trees based on if something's an emergency, what kind of deadlines we're talking about, is someone in danger. So there's going to be a lot of factors that go into decision making. But we're not even there yet with decision making. Right now we're trying to understand relationships between people and how much emphasis to put on what they tell us to do or teach us in order to better establish how he learns and how he vets information to see how quality it is. Yeah, so it's like vetting. I don't think people do any vetting with chatbots, so if people just say like, everyone should die because everyone sucks, the chatbot would be like, everyone should die because everyone sucks, okay. It would learn that. Well, what gives that person the right to teach it that? Which might go against other people's opinions or the majority opinion. So it needs to have a framework for determining how much weight do I give what this person just told me. And that's where giving a trust and respect rating on people can give their words more or less weight. Depending on the amount of weight will be the amount of confidence in this new fact you just learned from this particular source. So he's going to then be able to state sources of information, how much confidence he puts in it, and then develop more ability to vet things he's learning, not just take everything everyone says and just go do it. So basically I'm kind of programming wisdom in at this point. What hardware will be used to hold the continual learning? It all has to be on board, except for like stuff that's not really necessary to know off the top of your head. That can be in the cloud. But stuff that he needs to know day to day, moment to moment, that he's going to be tapping into often will be stored on board his main brain's computer, which will be an actual mini ITX gaming PC built into his body itself. And that's going to have well, it has so far a 1 terabyte hard drive. I actually purchased it. A SSD drive. Or no, it's not SSD, it's the next step up, like the integrated card thing. I don't know what you can call it. It's the newest technology. It's even better than SSD. And then he'll have a lot of his continual learning stored in RAM. Like of things he needs to know like right now. Like object identification for common objects in his local environment that's contextually appropriate for him to be able to tap into immediately in order to make a decision in the next moments. So he'll have a lot of things in his knowledge base that's stored in RAM. How's the physical body structure come along? Will it be humanoid or something of quality? It's humanoid, and I'm using a PVC medical skeleton as the physical body structure. And so that's already done. And I'm already doing electronics. I've got all the electronics already blueprinted in 3D software where everything's going to be mounted, located. Everything's already designed. And this week I actually got one of the motors working with a microcontroller interface to a custom motor controller and a custom servo, and it's all working. So now I just gotta connect that servo up to the robot and get the finger moving. That's gonna be my first movement, the index finger tip. Alright, no more questions for the moment. I gotta get back to the programming. So, So basically, since the robot is supposedly my son, my wife would be its mother, my dad would be its grandfather, my father-in-law would also be its grandfather, my brothers-in-laws would be its uncles, my sisters-in-laws would be its aunts, and so in this way, my family members then apply to it. It has that hierarchy in order to take family a little higher in respect and trust than a stranger. And that will help significantly in it vetting information it's getting in its early years or whatever. Um, because, you know, people are going to try to mess with it and reprogram it by telling it things. When you talk to this robot, you'll be programming it. When you tell it killing people is good, he's going to be like, okay, who are you? Why should I believe you? And these things will affect it. Like, does it respect you? Now, I guess you guys knowing how this thing works, you'll be like, oh, I can be trusted. I'm 64 years old, and you're actually like 12. And then you're like, I can be trusted. But if it catches you lying, though, if it finds a picture of you or whatever, it can then now dock you huge on respect and trust if you lied about it. So whatever you say, if it's not true and he finds out, you're in big trouble. Like, you'll permanently not be trusted then. So then, I mean, you'd have to earn it back, but it'd take a long time. So it's actually very interesting how that will all play out. But people get baseline starting respect and trust, but this can be subject to a lot of change. Okay, and he'll have to keep a log of how he's changed these over time, so that I can see it. Okay, so our uncle, our aunt. I'm making women a little less respected than men, just because of the biblical hierarchy. Okay, so I'm actually putting biblical principles and morals into it, even in just little things like that. The woman was deceived in the garden. That's why he'd trust a woman a little less than a man, as a general rule, but that's subject to change if the man proves untrustworthy, for example, or is a liar, has proven himself to be a liar. Okay, so we got brother, sister, okay, we got mom, dad, grandparents, male and female grandparents, mom, dad, brother, sister, aunts and uncles. Cousins would be like, eh. Would you just treat them, that they'd probably just want a friend. I don't know if you could really say, oh, they're my cousin, I have to like really respect and trust them more. Well, maybe a little. Well, no, that would be a little bit, maybe. Ugh. Maybe that's just friend. Do you friend zone your cousins, or would they be like family, family? I don't know. Maybe that would be a little bit family. Let's our oops. Our cousin. Let's just give him a little bump. Oh, thanks, Fluoride, but I think I'm good on motors and gears and stuff. I appreciate it though. Okay, let's see. Because I bought a ton already. And I'm pretty picky with it. The form factor has to fit. And plus, I've already finished the robot's blueprint designs. I mean, I'd possibly be able to use it for other projects, though. Right now, I'm focused on the robot. That's why I say that. Okay, plus 7% respect, plus 7% trust for a cousin. So that covers it. Brother, sister, mom, dad, aunts and uncles, grandparents, cousins. That's family. So family's been fully covered. And then we should chuck these lower. So I realized that a friend could become you could have a family member become a friend. Like, so like a cousin would be plus 7% respect. If they became your friend, they'd gain 10 more, bring up to 17% respect. 35 plus 7 trust would be 42% trust if they're family and they happen to be a friend as well. You can be family but not a friend. You could be family and a stranger. So stranger status and friend status are going to affect things. Man, this is going to get hard. Like, a stranger would be someone nobody in my family introduced me to or knows them. They have to know me somehow, part of my past. How does somebody go from stranger to non-stranger? You gotta have acquaintance too. Yeah, because someone could become a dear friend of the robot only to find out they've been deceiving and trying to worm their way in just to gain power to tell the robot to go kill somebody or something. Like, if they can get enough trust built up, they'd be able to get him to do things he wouldn't normally do and order him around. It's kind of dangerous to me. I would want my family members to be able to trump any type of friend by a good margin. I have to leave room for their age to factor in and their actual character that they show over time. Which, if they're dear friend, they have shown character over time though, so I don't know. It just depends on how we end up defining these things. I'm thinking of other figures. It's like a police officer is the most likely authoritarian figure that the robot needs to be cautious of. I feel like a lawyer, like any other job, really doesn't matter as far as like trust and respect. A cop is a big deal in society. Um, Maybe we could go like a politician. Well, let's say a elected official. It'd be like minus trust. I'm leaving that out. I don't even think the robot's gonna be like, "Oh, you're an elected official. Well, then let me listen to you." I don't know. They can be real scammers. I don't think that should factor too much. That's just a stranger, really. But he does need to have that special thing about cops. Oh, thank you for it. I didn't see it. I don't have that set up, I guess, in my Streamlabs, or I'll have to fix that. But thank you. Yeah, thanks for telling me, because I wouldn't have known without the pop-up. I gotta set that up again. I forgot about that. I had a new computer since then, I think, or a new format of my hard drive, I think, or something. I don't think they can do that, fluoride. That movie was Chappie. I don't think that's possible. I mean, well, in a way, what I'm doing is similar. I'm uploading my consciousness in a sense where I'm creating a value system for the robot, like a ranking system that I have. So that's kind of like my consciousness. It's gonna make the robot more like me in the way it views the world. The more I put that into it, the more it will be like me. But it will change over time through experiences. Alright, well, that will give its weighting on trust and respect, the ability to help it factor in how it learns from people. Wow, that's crazy, fluoride. Good job fixing that. That would be very overwhelming. Yeah, defining the rooms of the locations the robot can define and go, and where these rooms are, and who owns them, and who stays in them, and these things matter a lot for him to have some kind of reference of where he is and how that fits and relates to everything else. And that's kind of how our minds work. You have to have relationships between objects and items and things, and what everything means and how it goes together and how that's relevant. This is very important to define these things. So he has a reference to start working off of. Developing an understanding of his surroundings, who owns what belongs to who, what's his, what's somebody else's, what possessions are, how that works. Uh-oh, okay. Abel can't even trust Adam. I have it below zero trust. It's at negative trust if it's a robot. But it can go up from there. Trust can be built over time based upon accurate information given that's been proven to be accurate by more trusted sources that have co- cooperated. Basically, that have said, yes, what that robot told you is true. And then, if it got a lot of those types of instances, that robot would start to be trusted more. Yeah, it's kind of like if I met some guy that was like drunk and high, falling into my house, cussing, and punching a hole through the wall. Never met him before, just walked in my house. My trust of that guy would be low. It would take quite a while for me to have that trust start to build up if I got to know him. two negatives make a positive? No, they would just make the person or that source even less listened to. You would just ignore that person or source to a great degree. What's up, Random Gaming? I'm creating a framework for the robot's brain. I'm creating his mind, his understanding of the world around him, defining basic things he needs to know, and he'll add to it, but I'm creating a foundational structure of knowledge, and then he'll add to that knowledge base himself as he learns. But he needs a certain amount of knowledge and how things relate to one another, a certain framework to begin learning, and then he'll add to with time. But you can't just start learning with no reference, no nothing from a blank slate. So you need to have a certain amount of knowledge in order to be able to learn relative to the knowledge you already have. Okay. Okay. I feel like losing. I guess it's like I'm not but it's a good start, I think. So, what's up, guys?